to start first of all by attaching the answers here. We attach the questions and the answers of this particular paper that we shall be doing here. So it's not 100% leadership and management, but you guys will be able to gain immensely. You'll be able to gain immensely. That one I can promise you. You shall gain immensely. So have you been able to see the paper? Have you been able to download it? Have you been able to see the paper? Have you been able to download it? So abracadabra. Abracadabra. Have they been able to see the paper? And really, this is a course that I would expect all of us to do what here to do. When you get a chance in the future, please don't ignore this qualification on a CS. I'll tell you why. Don't ignore it at all. It's a qualification that all of us should be able to do. It's a great qualification. All right. So I would want us, ladies and gentlemen, to look at this question. It's a case question, which will be very helpful also to leadership and management students. So basically, they want us, you must start doing any case question by looking at the requirements, So like required here, evaluate 6 common board inefficiencies that might cause failure to the supermarket, HGS. Under each of the 4 stages of organizational failure, how companies fail, discuss boardroom dynamics, which could be present in the boardrooms of the failed supermarkets. C, for each stage identified in the above, summarize key measures that the board of HGS Limited should use to prevent or reverse organizational failure. And then they want us to explain how board evaluation at the supermarket could have contributed to organizational sustainability. Why is it important for us to have evaluations where you're looking at senior management performance and tell them that, hey, you kings, you are naked. And how will they be able to take this? D, discuss 5 ideal ways of planning and conducting effective board meetings at the company. Now, ladies and gentlemen, this is quite a classical case of these supermarkets that you must have seen outside here that are really collapsing by the day. In most cases, why do these supermarkets here collapse? Number 1, lack of integrity. Lack of integrity at the board level, at the management level, top management. At this juncture, I would want you great students of mine in this case here to put on your cameras. People are able to put on your cameras, of course, if you are able to put on your camera. Are you able in this case to put on your camera? I would want to see you today. I would want to see you today for just 1 minute like this, for just a minute like this, for just a minute like this. Is there anybody who is able to put on their camera today? I'm waiting to see anybody who will be able to put on their camera so that I can do some illustration there. I would want in this case here, these students who are putting on their cameras to touch their chin. Please touch your chin. Please touch your chin. Are you able to touch your chin? Please touch your chin. Please touch your chin. I would want every student to touch, in this case here, their chin like this. Live. Thank you very much, Lillian, for putting on your camera. Every number, I want to see you guys putting on your camera. Are you able to touch your chin like this? Are you able to touch your chin like this? Now, you guys are not stupid. You could see in this case here, most students are touching here as their chin, and yet the chin is this one. The chin is this one. Why do you think in this case here, these guys were touching this as their chin? It's because being their group leader here, being their leader here, because I'm the teacher here today, I started by telling you guys to touch your chins, and I touched my chin to be this one. And you guys did what you followed. And this is what happens in leadership. Employees will always stand to do what here employees always tend to follow what the leaders are doing. And that is why we as leaders, we need to set the right tone at the top. We need to set the right tone at the top. If we put it wrong up there, then every other thing down here will be wrong, will be wrong, will be wrong. So the board members up there have to be right, upright, for these other guys in the hierarchy to work very well and to work what here effectively. To work very well and to work effectively. Now, ladies and gentlemen, please listen and listen to me very well. I would want us to go through this case of supermarkets. Remember, supermarkets in Kenya, the very biggest of them all, they are really collapsing by the day. So what is happening with them? In most cases, I've told you it's lack of water integrity. Because what most of these directors here do, number one, they will start in this case here not paying, not meeting their obligations. Most of them in this case here collapse with landlord's money like crazy. You'll get, for example, a supermarket that has got 200 branches in the whole of Kenya, and they're supposed to be paying like $1 million rent every month. But in this case here, they say we are not paying. So every month, basically, they are saving like 200 million. So you can imagine how much that will translate to at the end of the year. And then, of course, they will end up also stealing from the suppliers. They'll end up stealing from the employees because of lack of water integrity. And then at the end of the year, you get these guys closing this one supermarket, and then they open another branch. They open another branch. Lack of water integrity, corruption issues. Corruption issues. Now, if you allow me, then I'll be able to come and read this story up here pretty fast. Pretty fast. So you are told here, HGS Limited is one of the supermarkets that has large market share in retail business in East and Southern Africa regions. Established 5 years ago in Kenya, has 21 outlets and over 5,000 employees. The supermarket generates slightly over 20 billion in revenue annually. The board of the supermarket is aware that in the recent past, 2 of the largest supermarkets have exited the market, and another one was struggling due to financial challenges. Aggressive expansion to increase presence in the region seemed to have been their strategic mistake because they were expanding aggressively. So, you know, when you expand aggressively as a business, ladies and gentlemen, you will enter into what we call thin capitalization. When you do what we call overtrading, you are entering into what we call thin capital, where you will start using like overdrafts to do long-term projects. Like what happened with Nakumatt. Nakumatt was really into deep debts. And amongst these deep debts, we had what here? We had, ladies and gentlemen, overdrafts involved, which are very expensive. And then they were opening new branches every other day. So this supermarket also was making the same mistake. Aggressive expansion to increase presence in the region seemed to have been their strategic mistake. This supermarket seemed too big to fail from the expansive reach and the penetration in the market. I mean, this is really speaking to us about Nakumatt. Remember, some time back, Nakumatt used to tell us, if you need it, we've got it. Today, if you go there, they've got nothing, absolutely nothing. The board of the company was also aware, business analysts, their failures affected several businesses in the value chain due to their inability to settle their debts. Business analysts and the media have argued that supermarkets, which went under, had weak governance structures, and their boards were making poor strategic business decisions. The board of HGS was also aware that boards and management of these retail companies were not inherently bad, or in some way were set up being part of these corporate disasters. The boards could have been set up. Maybe the management in this case here never involved the boards. At times in this case here, we have dysfunctional boards. These organizations remain a reminder, if one is needed, that corporate failure could occur if those in charge lose their way. It doesn't matter how big you are. It doesn't matter how strongly bonded as a family you are. The moment the person who is in charge, of course, who is the husband here, loses it out, once they lose their way, then automatically everything will come down tumbling. The board of the supermarket is interested in understanding why the boards of these retailers fail to detect warning signals during the early stages of failure. And if indeed they detected warning signals, why they decided to remain passive. Why not active? Why did they not act on them? In addition, the board wishes to find out why some supposedly talented and experienced boards often fail to intervene effectively in failing organizations despite their strategic position. Why are these boards in this case here not able to intervene? My good students, please listen. You know what normally happens? You guys will come together, we get to form a company, we say that we have 6 directors, and perhaps out of these 6 directors, 3 will be taken into be the executive. Once they're taken into be the executive, of course, they will collude with the other managers within this company to ensure that they fail to disclose information to these other non-executive directors. So basically, they have a dysfunctional board. The people who are making now decisions here are managers only, or the executive directors only. And you see these executive directors who are well always within the organization, they may lack that expertise. You know, why we bring in an executive directors to come and help us, it's because these guys are coming with some special skills from outside there. Why, for example, we get someone like Martin Odur. Martin Odur, you must have heard of Martin Odur. He's a legend in Kenya. This guy must be a director and an executive director over about 50 or 60 companies in Kenya. Remember, non-executive directors, these guys do not have any executive roles in the company. They only make their contributions to the company through board meetings. Their attendance perhaps could be like 3 hours for every, say, in each quarter. He only comes to board meetings in the company for just 3 hours on a quarterly basis. But those 3 hours in this case here, ladies and gentlemen, is because they are going to use that board meeting to dissect and understand the strategies and, of course, advise the management. That would mean all heavens here to the company. So the moment in this case here we start having a passive board and a board which is not actively involved, then automatically, ladies and gentlemen, we shall fail as an institution. Remember, ladies and gentlemen, boards that are able to make institutions move from one step to a higher step are known as progressive boards. And those boards automatically, they are what here, very dynamic. That's why we are discussing about boardroom dynamics. And the boardroom dynamics, we're looking at things like collaborations. Are these directors talking to one another? Do we have open communication at the top level? Or do we have situations where simply we say, let's just hang on together because we have got children in the mix, let's just be there. And yet we're not even talking to each other as a couple. All right. So we want a situation, ladies and gentlemen, where the boardroom is progressive, where we have progress on the board. The board, which is progressive, is actively involved in running of the company, in management of the company. They will have, for example, what we call board committees. Board committees. We shall have one committee, for example, being an audit committee. Another committee, for example, remuneration. And we expect out of these committees to always have reports. All right. If, for example, like if it's the audit committee, it is the one in this case that will liaise with the auditors of the company. We shall be having them talking to the internal audit department here. We would want in this case here the entire organization, despite some of us being non-executive, would want the entire organization to feel the impact of a board. If they're not feeling the impact of a board, then we are passive. We are, in this case here, a functional board. So up to there, ladies and gentlemen, are we really communicating? Are we together? Are you able to give me some feedback there? Are we together? Are you able to follow? Are you able to follow? Are you able to follow? This is very practical for the students, of course, who are doing leadership and management. Very practical. Very practical. All right. So then we continue. So we are told here that the board of HGS was also aware that the boards and management of these retail companies were not inherently bad. No. To address, let me just skip here. To address these concerns and others in order to enhance corporate governance is a big thing in the firm. The board has requested you as a governance professional to examine the dynamics and challenges that may have confronted the boards of directors of these failed firms as failure progressed from one stage to another. And of course, the biggest thing that happened for these companies to fail, it is the detachment of the board from the running of the company. From an in-depth study of available data on these firms and from other credible sources, you obtain the following information: that generally failure starts with the initial or pre-failure stage and is often brought by management inability to spot or underestimate early warning signals that indicate a potential threat to the organization's future survival. So the management is not able to see that this thing is coming to swallow us. Like you get like some colleges and universities in Kenya, up to now, they are still underestimating the power of what are these online classes. All right. So in this case, you get management at this particular pre-failure stage, they are not taking things very, very seriously. They're not even able to spot, in this case here, risks affecting the company. There is consensus in the failure literature that each stage of failure raises different organizational challenges. You fail in one stage like this, there'll be bigger. An effective handling of failure requires management to use appropriate intervention strategies targeted at the unique challenges faced at that particular stage of failure. Wiesel and Johnson's 5-stage model shows that failure typically starts with blinded management, a management that can't see or doesn't want to see. Then inaction, followed by faulty action, then a crisis, and finally, what we call dissolution. Ladies and gentlemen, remember, in this case here, like what we were studying in advanced financial management called Argenti's A model. So these guys will make automatically mistakes, the managers. Once they make mistakes, to correct those mistakes, now they start moving up and about. All right? They have discovered that, hey, there is this thing that we missed here. We have gone ahead and expanded rapidly, and we don't have financial resources. Instead of them making the right decision and saying, hey, even if we have just expanded blindly, and we want to be there in the future, let's close some of these branches that you have opened in these malls, which don't even have enough people. Let's close them. What most of them will do, they will start, in this case, making even bigger mistakes, going for more loans, doing some advertisements, in this case, which don't make any sense. They increase the operational cost, and then at the end of the day, we go ahead to bury them. All right? All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, please listen, because here now we are guiding colleagues who are in management. I want to believe that some of you are already in management or shall get into big management positions in the near future. Never ignore the powers of your board of directors. Always, in this case, as much as possible, we know that there are managers down here like CEOs who would want to undermine the board. You undermine the board, and then it will reach a time when you need them. Then you realize that these guys now can't even help. We must, the moment somebody has been appointed as a director here, we must work with these people. We need progressive boards. Progressive boards are those boards that believe in, for example, capacity development. Even at board level, there must be continuous training. Progressive boards, ladies and gentlemen, are very dynamic. Dynamic in what sense? Dynamic in the sense of innovation. These are directors who are able to wake and say, hey, we can see that there are online colleges here which are doing very well. We as physical colleges or physical universities, if you're not careful, we shall get into a ditch. Let's embrace technology. You can't fight technology. If you can't fight them, what do? You join them like that. So we want a progressive board. And for this board to be progressive, there must be a strong connection between the board and the company. There must be a strong connection between the leader and the company. So we are told here, whilst management behaviors, roles and power vary across life cycle stages, several behavioral factors such as the power of the CEO through social networks and the relationships have profound implications on board decision-making processes. Boards and directors fulfill their fiduciary duty is the position of what here? Trust. You're given some powers there where people are trusting you. All right. So they are feeling a duty to their shareholders by overseeing and monitoring the CEO and the management actions, vetoing poor decisions when these managers bring CEO and of course he's like a director of finance. When they bring poor decisions, we should be able to tell them, I mean, put this aside. Vetoing poor decisions to protect the interests of shareholders and assisting and advising management in their effort to increase shareholders' wealth. From an unbroken chain of bad decisions over a period of time, boards of directors are supposed to draw upon their collective wisdom to spot some of the bad decisions and break the chain of errors before they spiral out of control. The role of the board is to assess the risk of each strategy. Data from collapsed supermarket showed the four stages of organizational failure: management, action, and the board dynamics as follows. Conception stage, management made a chain of mistakes and there was no deliberate attempt to involve the board when it was decided to expand into areas in which they had little or no experience. Boards of directors exhibited groupthink mentality, blind faith in management. You believe in management 100%, and they failed to execute their corporate duties. Key outcomes included destruction of shareholder value, warning signals stage. Management had started taking high-risk decisions, and the CEOs had started deliberate attempts to hide the warning signals and influence the boards to approve high-risk strategies. Ladies and gentlemen, when the CEO comes to the board, could automatically be the secretary to the board, ensure that you are able to critique whatever proposals they bring to you. As directors, you are required as much as possible to be very independent. We must be very independent, especially of the CEO and his team. If these guys are coming to befriend us, and then we go, for example, after every meeting, we are going out there for lunch with them, then at the end of the day, these guys will be able to do very, very bad because they'll just come and tell you there is this strategy, you are our friends. What do? Just pick up, approve. So you become, in this case, just rubber stamping robots without critiquing, without assessing the risks of the strategies. So someone tells you, let's go and, for example, expand to Tanzania. You just go there blindly without looking at some things, simply because you are not independently appraising the strategies given to you. So management had started taking high-risk decisions, and CEOs had started deliberate attempts to hide the warning signals and influence the boards to approve high-risk strategies. Board of directors were not aware of the magnitude of the crisis. They ignored initial signals and continued to have blind faith in management as the shareholder value continued to decline. The barren stage, management was chasing high risks that had short-term impact, showed intolerance of dissent, and the focused on marginalization and the punishment of dissenting directors. Those of you who are at the board level, you must be knowing that at board, there will be those directors who will be labeled like dissentients, like they're dissenting. These are bad directors. Please, if you're the chairman of the board, you should never approve of that. So we have here rebellion stage. Now there are those guys who are rebelling. Then collapse stage. Management ignored negative feedback, and the ultimate result was business failure. Now management cannot even get this feedback. When you tell them that you guys are doing something wrong, they become your enemies. So automatically then we are collapsing there. So evaluate 6 common board inefficiencies that might force failure of HGS. And really we've been able to see all of them from here. Under each of the 4 stages of organizational failure, discuss board dynamics, which could present in the boardrooms of the failed supermarkets. For each stage identified in the above, summarize key measures the board of this supermarket should use to prevent or reverse. So for your case, you're looking at this as the leaders now. Should use to prevent or reverse organizational failure. Explain how regular board evaluation at this supermarket could have contributed to organizational sustainability. Discuss 5 ideal ways of planning and conducting effective board meetings at this company. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I will go through this pretty fast because they're straightforward things. 6 common board inefficiencies that may have caused failure of this. Number 1, it is the groupthink mentality. Groupthink mentality, where in this case here you have like a whole, ladies and gentlemen, you're supposed to manage a company through board level, using what we call force versus habitat. Force versus habitat. If you remember the concept of force versus habitat, this is a concept of the majority rules. Majority rules. All right. So once you get like board members who are easily whipped, they're easily whipped to always endorse what, for example, the chairman is saying. People think that the chairman is always right. All right. People in this case, you will be told that this particular Finance Act 2023, 2024 has an issue. Please let us not pass this thing. But you're told in this case here, so long as this person has said it is good, every other person is being shepherded. We call that one here group thinking mentality. We had this for market that failed. They had that group thinking mentality. Once you get yourself being at the board level, once you get yourself being a leader in Kenya, for example, here, please get to read through documents. Get to read through strategies. Make decisions which are, in this case here, based on realities. The moment you have this group think that you want to think like others, you want to be seen like others, it's also called conformity. You want to conform with what is happening here. Then there will be a problem. Ladies and gentlemen, dissenting is a good thing. Even at family level, if you get yourself, in this case here, your husband and of course your wife there, that every time you're always yes, on the same side, yes, know that there is something wrong in that family. That's what we call groupthink. That even as a wife, your husband tells you, like, for example, you go and build this house wherever, you have to say, yes, man, you're correct. Group thinking is not very good. We would want a situation where we are able to critique whatever proposals are on board, and even after critiquing and saying, no, I'm not part and parcel of this, we will still remain being friends moving forward. Because we are supposed to appreciate that we don't have to like agree all of us 100%. Progressive boards will always have members who dissent. Members who don't always agree. The moment you get yourself agreeing with the chairman throughout, please, it's unethical. You are earning a salary from that board, and yet you're not working, because we are putting you there to work for us. You must support all your answers, or rather all your decisions, with the facts here. With facts, you must read. You can see like lack of independent oversight when board members are too closely aligned with management or have personal relationships with key executives. Their ability to provide objective oversight may be compromised. Failure to execute corporate duties. Boards must actively, you can't be passive. Boards must actively engage in overseeing strategic decisions and ensuring that management actions align with the organization's objectives. Failure to do so can result in missed opportunities to mitigate risks or address emerging issues. In this question, we're told that the directors are what here? Passive. So the moment you're passive, then you are failing to execute what you are calling corporate duties. You're not doing the mandate which you are hired to go and execute them. You can see blind faith in management. If I use just our family example, that so long as the husband says, everything the husband says is correct, that is very wrong. Kama ni mzee amekaliwa, so long as my wife has said it. That's what we call blind faith in management. In these big corporates, you can't have the CEO and then you think that this is like the panacea. Somebody who is giving a solution to all problems. No. This guy must come at the board level. Myself as the chairman, I'll tell him, hey, you guys, we have this agenda. So go ahead and read. The proposals you have from this agenda. So the CEO will read, and then I'll allow the members here to really speak through these proposals. All right. Then I'll be able to call them into some votes. Then we shall be able to count, in this case here, the votes objectively. All right. So blind faith in management. Boards that place excessive trust in management without questioning their decisions or seeking independent verification of information are vulnerable to being misled or unaware of potential risks. Ineffective risk management or risk assessment. Boards should assess the risk associated with strategic decisions and monitor the implementation of risk management strategies. Failure to accurately evaluate risks can lead to poor decision making. Lack again of these dissenting voices. Boards that discourage or marginalize dissenting opinions may miss valuable insights and alternative perspectives, increasing the likelihood of overlooking warning signs or making faulty decisions. Now, this case of Wamchomba, this lady from Mount Kenya, you know, like now she's the dissenting voice. When she was telling the colleague that, you know what, this bill has got big bad things about what here, about, I mean, people marginalize her, which is very wrong. When you guys get into these leadership levels, when you get somebody is dissenting, always tend to have what we call a thick skin. Don't be that governor when one day your assistant governor comes and tells you that, hey, here there is something we can do better. And then you feel in this case like threatened. Now here you are there. I mean, the management is not working very well. No. Gathoni Wamchomba. Is it Wamchomba? I don't know. Let me read. I can see. What if you are threatens your position as manager? Most of us are in such situations. Too sad. If jobs were easy to come by, Lillian, I would have told you to look for something elsewhere. Otherwise, it's good for you to be true. It's good for you to be true. But now, because you want to reserve your position, you need to develop a thick skin. All right. Now, boardroom dynamics in each stage of organizational failure, the conceptual stage. Management makes unilateral decisions without board involvement. When things are starting to go haywire, things are starting to go wrong down there, you'll always see management now making water decisions without involving the board. The boards exhibit groupthink mentality and a blind faith in management, where they are delegating everything to the CEO. You go and run the show, as will only be rubber stamping whatever key outcome and include destruction of shareholder value. Warning signal stage, management takes high-risk decisions and hides warning signals from the board. Board remains unaware of the crisis magnitude and continue to trust management blindly. What happens? Shareholder value is going down. This company will sink, will be barren. Rebellion stage. Management becomes intolerant of dissent, all right, and punishes dissenting directors now. So you can see now here once, now these guys are rebellious now. By the time you are coming in as a director, try to see whether you can salvage anything, it will not happen. Now these guys will tell you that is the door. They'll show you the door. Go away. Boards may become marginalized and ineffective in challenging management decisions. Focus shifts to short-term gains without considering long-term sustainability. Now you see now management is on its own. They're trying to look at how can we gain short-term. They started with a supermarket making crazy kind of offers. And now we are selling unga at, for example, 80 just to attract customers. So they're selling, not now, but of course, right now there is quite a lot happening, good things happening in Kenya. We know the price have gone down. But at times, in this case, in those old days, you could see Nakumat doing crazy offers. There's awarding points in this case here being crazy. Simply, they were going for short-term gains without looking at even the cost implications. Collapse stage, management ignores now negative feedback. Now they don't want to hear anything. They would rather, in this case here, die than resign. Management ignores negative feedback and leads to business failure. Boards may become passive or dysfunctional, failing to intervene effectively. Shareholder value is ultimately now destroyed like that. Key measures for prevention or reversal of organizational failure at each stage. So conceptual stage, ensure board involvement in major decisions. Encourage diverse perspectives and challenge management decisions always. Implement robust risk assessment processes to evaluate potential impacts. At warning stage, enhance board awareness of warning signals and encourage proactive risk monitoring. Establish mechanisms for independent verification of management information. Strengthen board oversight to prevent high-risk what-year strategies. At rebellion stage, promote a culture of open dialogue and a constructive dissent within the boardroom. Implement governance mechanisms to promote directors from marginalization or retaliation. Focus on long-term sustainability rather than what-year short-term gains. Everything here is the same. Collapse stage, strengthen board independence and assertiveness in challenging management decisions, implement crisis management protocols to address imminent threats, consider leadership changes if management is unwilling or unable to reverse the course. Ladies and gentlemen, please listen and listen to me very well. If you don't want your company to fail, what are we talking about here? If you don't want this company to fail, number one, most importantly, is ensure that the board has a voice. The board is active. The board is involved in risk, of course, not risk, but yes, that's also a functionality in risk monitoring. That's very, very important. And for them to monitor risks very effectively, they must be given that leeway of challenging management proposals. The board must be involved in the planning and implementation of the strategic plan. We would want, in this case, the voice of these directors here. We must involve the board. It has to be a collaborative thing. Remember, the board, these are the guys who have been given that mandate, basically to be the head, the think tank of what year of the company. All right. So the most important factor also is to ensure that every board member's voice is heard. The majority will always have their way, but minority should always be allowed to say. They must have a say. They must have a say like that. And then most importantly, ladies and gentlemen, ensure that we have got what here? Progressive boards. Progressive boards, as I've told you, are boards that are able to progressively move the company from one level to another level. These guys must be able to talk to each other, despite having some dissenting members, and ensure that we are able to protect minority interests. That's very important. And that's why in boardroom dynamics, we talk about what here? We talk about boardroom diversity. Boardroom diversity. The moment you hire a board, which in this case here will be saying yes, 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 then there is nothing that will be happening in that company. That will be a moribund board. Things will not happen there. All right. So are we together, ladies and gentlemen, up to there? Are we together? Are we together up to there? Are we together? Are we together? Are we able to pick some things here? And it's like your leadership, your boardroom dynamics, questions are quite, and that's when I normally come and spend the last 1 week to try to assist my students. Your questions will be very, very general. You'll be surprised nothing will come from your textbooks or from your notes. It will be a very, very general paper. And once you understand like these leadership things, you understand, for example, if it's leadership, you get to understand, for example, the leadership management gurus, and understand how to apply them in a case scenario, then we'll be able to do very well in this paper. And we'll be able to discuss that. But today, the interest of the students who are doing this paper, now, ladies and gentlemen, regular board evaluation at this company could contribute to organizational sustainability. Please, for the students who are in the board or in management, do you normally get a chance of being evaluated by employees and even, for example, customers who know you? It's very important for us to get what year feedback so that we can identify areas of improvement. At the end of the day, we would want to be responsible as leaders, as directors. At the end of the day, when we are able to identify our areas of weaknesses, that will spur learning within the board. That will even, in this case, strengthen our communication and collaborations within the board. So regular board evaluation, where your performance is being evaluated, could contribute to organizational sustainability by identifying areas for improvement in board effectiveness and governance practices, enhancing board accountability and performance, facilitating ongoing learning and development for board members, strengthening communication and collaboration within the boardroom, ensuring alignment between board actions and organizational objectives. Now, look at these 5 ideal ways of planning and conducting effective board meetings. Ladies and gentlemen, since I started practicing external audit, there are things that we get to learn. When we come, in this case here, to audit an organization, I'm able to learn very many things about internal control weaknesses from the word go. So you get, in this case, into the company. Among the things that I would want to be given are the board minutes. So some people will just give you a board minutes here book. In most cases, of course, it's just written manually, incomplete. All right. Other companies will tell you that no, this is a secret. They don't even understand the scope of an auditor. All right. But ladies and gentlemen, if there is anything that I've seen in well-crafted companies which are really growing by the day, it is how their board is conducted, how the board meeting is conducted. If you get to see some of these companies that are really doing like billions revenue, like the one that we read up there, those guys have very effective boards which respect board meetings. All right, where directors will come, for example, if they are told that the board meeting is supposed to be at 2 p.m., by 1 p.m., those guys are there. And they don't just come to see it. These guys, they will come with their laptops. They must have done, in this case, some research, because the agenda is normally distributed quite early. But in some of these other companies like government parastatals, you really wonder. And those guys are scooping up to 30,000 per meeting. Somebody will come, in this case, like 1.5 hours late. His only thing is to sign there because he knows that that signature pen there has got an impact to his wealth accumulation. That is pure, broad daylight theft. Any director who goes to a meeting without preparation is a thief. That is why we circulate the agenda very early, like 2 weeks. When you have a company secretary, the company secretary will be able to circulate an agenda very early. And then you as a director, of course, you have to go and look at these are the proposals coming, in this case, from the executive team. All right. So the executive team, for example, would want like an increase in salary. All right. So you as a director then, who is supposed to go and speak through this kind of an agenda, should be able to look at even like the financials of the company. How is the growth like? Whatever salary they are recommending here, is it sustainable? So when I go to contribute to this agenda, it will be seen really that I did what I have prepared, that I'm not opposing these people's proposal out of bad faith. I've done research. I've done research. So you can see 5 ideal ways of planning and conducting effective board meetings. Agenda setting: develop a comprehensive agenda that prioritizes critical issues and allows sufficient time for discussion and decision making. Ladies and gentlemen, remember, most of companies are as good as their chairman. The moment the chairman is very good, then automatically this particular company will be able to go far, because a good chairman will be able to ask for agenda items from the board members and from the executive team. So he's able to get this, and then he's able to do an agenda charter. So in this agenda timetable, this guy will be able to say, this one is of a high priority, it shall be there. And he should be able to come up with even time plans. This agenda, we shall be able to give it 10 minutes like that. All right. And then, of course, the secretary now will be able to pick like that and ensure that we have very good documented minutes, very well documented minutes. So that there must be an agenda. Pre-meeting preparation. Distribute meeting materials well in advance to allow board members adequate time for review and preparation. A good chairman will strive, for instance, in this case, to give those kind of like if it's financial statements needed for every agenda. That's why you have a company secretary. You need to provide materials, pre-meeting preparation. And then active participation and encourage active engagement from all board members, fostering open dialogue and a constructive debate. Decision-making process. Implement clear decision-making protocols to ensure that board decisions are well-informed and consensus-driven. Post-meeting follow-up. Establish mechanisms for monitoring and tracking the implementation of board decisions, as well as evaluating meeting effectiveness for continuous improvement. Good chairman will always ensure that the members are improving by the day. So, ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the end of this session, but that means that from what I'm seeing, I should be welcoming you to these sessions whenever I'm teaching these lawyers' company secretaries. I'm so sure there is quite a lot that you'll be able to learn out of this paper. So it has been a pleasure hosting all of you. I'm looking forward again to, we always have these classes on Sunday. on Sunday. So thank you very much. All the best. All the best. Be blessed. Great. You're welcome. Welcome. Bye. Yes, you will overcome. I'll be able to provide very many of them. They are very similar. I'll be inviting you. The moment you do like these case studies with me, a few, and of course, you have very good teachers over there, then we shall be able to overcome, because really, this subject is all about practical applications. It's all about looking at the current developments. All right. That's why most students fail in this paper. But of course, at RCM College, that one I can assure you, given that we are taking all of us leaves, we agreed during these leave days, then we shall be able to come up with a timetable where we shall also be able to talk about some of these papers. Thank you. Bye.